guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna be reacting to a video called What We Love and Hate About Driving in the USA. I think the US has nice roads. I think, well, yeah, it depends. Sometimes the traffic is really bad. But I think especially when you go, there's beautiful stretches of road. I think there's, some highways, I think they're just really nice. So it's kind of nice to always see right around in a car. And, you're gonna, if you like driving, you're gonna have a really good time because the driving, it's, you have to go 4 hours one way and 4 hours the other way, or sometimes even 6. So if you like driving, well, move to the USA. But I don't know, I always think the downside of this is traffic, I think. But, well, whatever. We're going to check this out. So come join me and comment, like, and subscribe.
Oh, and welcome to Europe, more specifically Prague, Czech Republic. I'm the Honest Guide, and today we would like to talk about differences in cars and driving in general between Europe and United States of America. This video will be full of stereotypes, so let's not get offended on either side of the pond, and let's jump right into it. I'm going to start with the positives that I see whenever I go to US and drive there. Number one for me absolutely is that most of the cars, I would almost say all of them, are automatic transmission. Yes. Now don't get me wrong, I like to shift my old Volvo, but having an automatic when you drive around the city or when you're stuck in a traffic jam is just much more comfortable.
Yeah.
On the other hand, having a stick shift in US, that's a great car theft protection because nobody really knows how to drive it. Don't get offended, I'm sure you're the only American that knows how to drive a stick. Probably the best thing about driving in US, and it's been popularized by Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear, is the fact that you can make a right turn on a red light. I absolutely love it. Now, you can't do that on Manhattan, which kind of makes sense, but everywhere else, if you pull into the intersection, you just look left and you make a right turn no matter what the color on the signal is. Now, I did some research on this, and believe it or not, in some states, you can actually make a left turn on the red light. Only in the case if you're in a one-way street and you're making the left turn into a one-way street.
Oh my God,
Kinda cool. I wish this would be adapted, the right turn on red, to everywhere in Europe, in all the cities, because it really does make sense. Speaking of traffic lights, I absolutely love that in US, the traffic lights are further away or on the other side of the intersection. So when you pull in, you can actually see the traffic light. Unlike here, when you pull into the intersection, the traffic light is right behind you. So when you're behind the wheel, you're gonna have to go like this to see if you have a red or a green light.
Oh, that's standard there?
Not good.
Yeah.
On the other side, it's perfect. By the way, my dad has a story that when he first drove in US, he actually stopped under the light at the opposite side of the intersection. Not sure if he was joking or if he was real.
Oh my God.
Another thing that I find as a positive in US is that trucks on highways and on freeways usually have the same speed limit as cars. Now, it has its negative and positive sides, but I usually see it as positive because there's no passing on and on and on. I mean, everyone is sort of maintaining the same speed, trucks and cars. On the other hand, in most states in Europe, the trucks are limited to usually 50 miles an hour, where the cars can go up to 80.
You have to pass
so the whole time you're on the freeway, you have to keep passing and pay a lot of attention to what's going on.
You're a good driver, that's not a problem.
Trucks in the United States, I absolutely love the way they look, these long-haul trailers. And why is it that trucks look different in Europe and in US? Well, the reason actually is that in EU or in Europe, there's different regulations and limits for the length of the entire truck with the trailer. In US, it's only for the trailer, not for the truck pulling it. Therefore, they can be longer and have those cool, longer, massive motor engine noses, which I, as a kid, used to love.
I think it's because in the US, obviously the roads are going to be wider, so the trucks can be bigger. But if the roads are smaller, as is the case for I think all Europe, you can't have a big truck. They can't literally pass through there.
And on top of that, quite often trucks in Europe have to pull into cities with the cargo, and there's, as you can imagine, tighter turns within European cities. I mean, right here, we're in the middle of a city, and there's a big brewery here. So when the trucks pull in, they need to make a tight turn. So a shorter truck is better for that. Now, the one thing I like a lot, and I just asked some friends, and they admitted to it as well, is that when you're on a freeway in US, usually everyone maintains the same speed. Now, I understand that if you want to go crazy faster, you're not going to be able to, but from a calm driver perspective, I kind of like that.
Me
Unlike
too.
in Europe, especially in some states, you always find crazy people
Really?
that just want to go crazy
Oh,
fast.
no.
Again, cruising on the freeway in US
The
is much
Autobahn?
calmer. I mean, you still have to pay attention, but much less than in Europe, where you're passing a truck and behind you is a guy who wants to go 100
Oh my
miles an
God,
hour.
chill.
Then you pass the truck, then there's another guy who wants to go 120 miles an hour.
Okay,
In
speed
US, like
limits?
everybody's going 75, and you're just kind of
Yeah.
cool.
You're cruising. It's fine.
I put this one in the
prefer that.
positives, but it can also be a negative. You can park anywhere in US unless you're on Manhattan.
this isn't a
I
parking
mean,
zone.
most businesses, most restaurants will have their own designated parking lot.
Oh, yeah,
That
sure.
is usually not the case in Europe.
There's no parking
also,
lots?
there's many drive-through venues in US, for example. I mean, you can obviously go to McDonald's, but you can also get money from an ATM from a car. You'd never see that in Europe. By the way, do you know what we
very
call
car-centric.
drive-through at McDonald's in Czech Republic? We call it McDrive. And yes, I do have their sticker. And now there's
that's so
one
cool.
thing I absolutely love about driving in US, and it's the interstate system. There is a deep logic to it. It's not just some random numbers they give to highways. All the odd numbers are going from south to north, and all the even numbers are going from east to west. So interstate number 10
Oh, yeah.
is at the very bottom of the United States and connects San Diego and probably Jacksonville in Florida. The number 95 would probably go from Florida all the way up to New York. So it all starts in the left bottom corner where number 5 and number 10 meet. And in the right upper corner, you'd have number 90
I hadn't
and
paid attention to
95
this.
meet. It's very logical. It's a great
is.
system. And therefore, you can navigate by that. If you drive in Europe and I would give you directions to a certain city, I would just say, oh, you follow signs for Brno, and then you follow signs for Ostrava, and then you
Yeah.
follow signs for Krakow.
Yeah,
in
just
US,
names.
I just say, oh, just follow 80 West.
Yeah, sure. But I thought that was just
And I mean-
a number.
If you want to drive from New York to San Francisco, I would say exactly that. I'd say follow 80 West, because that's the road that drives across the entire states. I drove that. It's a long drive.
It is, I would imagine.
The system is much, much deeper than what I just described. There are also 3-digit interstates that tell you if there's a attachment to the interstate that goes into the city, around the city, through the city, and so on. There's
like
a
the one
great
in LA.
Wikipedia page on it. I recommend you look at it because it will blow your mind away just like mine. Now, these were the things I like about driving in US. Now, let's go into the full rage mode and tell you
Oh,
what I
the bad.
absolutely hate about driving in the United
A lot of
States of
traffic, I
America.
think.
The first thing I dislike about US is usually very low speed limits, especially on the freeways, on the interstates,
go faster?
where it ranges from 65 to 70, 75. Here in Europe, it's usually, I mean, in our state, it's 80 miles. In bordering Germany, there's no limit at all.
That's
But also,
insane
the
to me.
freeways are in much better shape here. I mean, they're straight, they're fast, they have fences around so nothing jumps into your way. And
Ow.
speaking of speed limits, there's the other thing in US that it always has to be posted. And if you just miss the sign that was telling you what the speed limit is
get a
or
ticket.
was, you don't know how fast you can go.
Yeah.
In Europe, every state has 3 speed limits within the city, out of the city, and on the highway.
Oh,
And
that
there will be a
seems easy
sign that will
enough.
tell you once you enter the state. Therefore, you don't have to look for a speed limit sign because you know that here it's 50 kilometers in the city, 90 out of the city, and 130 on the freeway. Speaking kilometers, just to be clear.
Yeah, of course.
Remember how I said it's positive that people just kind of cruise along the freeway and everybody goes at the same speed? Yeah, it's cool up to the point where you want to pass someone. I mean, I hate how people in US don't know how to actually use the freeway.
How are you supposed
the
to use
left
it?
lane is for passing, not cruising. I mean,
Yes.
there's signs in US that tell you that. Left lane for passing only.
That's true.
Everybody ignores that. You get a person sitting in the left lane doing 60 miles an hour.
That's a bad
I
driver.
don't care, I'm just gonna be here. Usually doesn't happen in the European states if they have 3 lanes. I mean, now in the Czech version of this
Yeah.
video, people will be like, that's not true. Everybody's sitting in the left lane. Not
What
as much
happens
as they
there?
do in US. Now, the
Yeah, I
next
think
one
it's
I'm
just a
sure
sign of
will
a
be
bad driver.
positive to some, especially the people living in those states, but I just find it crazy from a European's perspective. And that is the fact that in a lot of US states,
What?
you don't need a technical inspection for your car. I mean, as long as it rolls,
Yeah.
you can drive it around.
That's how it
so you
goes,
see
right?
cars that are missing bumpers, that are missing door, that are after a car accident, and they're just driving along.
Yeah.
My car is in a beautiful shape, and I can't even drive it to German cities because it wouldn't pass the emissions.
What?
And I'm wishing for it to pass the future technical inspection.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
So here in Europe, it's very, very strict.
Really?
In US, in Florida, what? You can drive that in Florida easily. This can roll on the streets of, the redneck Riviera.
Not the redneck Riviera.
Do we have a lot of viewers from Florida?
Florida's always the
I love
butt of the
Florida.
joke.
Well, I guess if you use enough duct tape, it's gonna hold. Another interesting one
Yeah.
from my point of view is that all the
As long as the car's still driving, yeah, drive it fine.
signs, all the road signs, or at least most of them in US, are written in text. On the other hand, here, they're
are you
all
supposed to?
symbols. And the reason for it is obvious. If I drive 2 hours that direction, I'm going to be in Germany.
No, it speaks the same
4
language.
hours that direction, I'm going to be in Poland.
True.
5 hours that direction, I'm going to be in Hungary. And they all speak different languages. Therefore, you need a symbol. In US,
That's logical,
you can
yeah.
drive for 3 days straight and you're going to still speak
Yeah.
the same language. So you can simply put up a sign that says no parking and not a special symbol that explains to all
That's
of us in Europe that we cannot park there. And I can imagine some Americans driving here can be confused.
You don't know what that
do you know
means.
what this means? Or this sign? Yep. Now let's talk about gas. Gas used to be really cheap in US, not really the case now.
Has it- yeah,
It's
has it
around,
ever?
$3.70 a gallon is the nation
Varies.
average. In California, you're looking at $6 a gallon, which, by the way, is the price we are paying here in Europe for a gallon of gas. But the one thing
Wow.
that always strikes me is when you go to pump at a gas station and you have to prepay. What? Why? I pump first, then I go pay. Not the other way around. Like, do you go to a restaurant and you're like, yeah, I'll have a burger and a Coke? First you pay, then we may bring you the
Well,
meal to
if
the
you're
table.
a drive-through,
any
yeah,
logic to me.
you pay first.
Now, if the argument is that people would pump the gas and then flee away,
It varies,
I mean,
yeah.
people don't do that in Europe. Occasionally they do, but it's not like everyone does it.
Which
I
they
don't know,
shouldn't.
just don't understand it, and I hate it. And here's the main reason we hate it as Europeans, which you will never face as an American. Using our European cards in US can be a struggle.
Why?
I mean, quite often we get asked for a zip code when we pay with our European card. Well, I just put in 90210 and it always lets me through, even though it's a security issue, security thing. No, it's not. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if like American companies didn't realize that, oh, there's cards in Europe that we have to accept. I didn't know that. Yeah. The other
didn't know
topic I
that.
want to talk about, there are videos on YouTube that talk about it for hours and hours. I'll just quickly mention it. This is a turn signal.
Yes, it's your
and
blinking
turn
light.
signal is yellow, not red. It should not be red. Also, BMW drivers, voila. Yeah, you have it in your car too. Why is it important that it has different color than
Yeah,
your
your
brake
brake.
light? Because you can mix those up.
Correct.
For example, if you're driving behind a car and one of his brake lights is out and he uses the brake, is he signaling
Oh my
or is he
God.
using the brake? And now if you're saying, well, that never happens.
It could
well, I
happen,
was just
though.
a week ago in New Orleans. A car in front of me was driving. He was hitting the brake. And I wasn't sure if he's signaling or if he's, hitting the brake. Also, the car was in a shape that it would never be allowed to drive
No,
on European
it-
roads.
it's for
But please
car.
remember, turn signal should be yellow, not red.
Yeah, it's a
And
good
speaking
point.
of importances of different lights on the car, we have something called the rear fog light. And cars in US usually don't have that.
What?
You use that if there's heavy rain, heavy snow, or fog, and you turn it on and it's brighter so people behind you can
Oh,
see you. If
the
you
other-
don't have that, you can't pass an inspection here. So, when my family had a car from US, we had a Nissan Stanza, we actually had to attach a little light, the fog light, to the
What?
car to pass the inspection in Europe.
Is that where you put your
If you come as a
your
driver
beams?
from Europe
What?
to US, one thing that will struck you the most are stop signs. They're everywhere. And I mean, there's even stop signs all around the intersection, so-called the four-way or all-way or three-way stop sign, where everybody pulls in. They all
Everyone
have
has
to
to
stop and sort of look at each other like, who's going to go? Well, the biggest
Mexican
car, the
standoff.
one who came the first. And since you have stop signs everywhere, people tend to not really ignore them, but not stop.
Yeah, you're
not
sort of
fully stop.
slow down.
If there's a stop sign in Europe, it usually indicates that the intersection is dangerous.
Oh, they actually
and you
pay
have
attention.
to stop.
Full stop.
So I can't recall too many stop signs from where I live.
That's
but if
interesting
I
as well.
come across one, I'll stop. And I'll make sure to look a lot before I go because it's a dangerous intersection. In the US, it's like, no, a stop sign, stop sign, stop sign, stop sign, stop
You're
sign.
sort of,
and people just go like, yeah, I'll just go slowly, right? Yeah, people do that.
Yes.
Now all the Americans are like, no, we all stop at stop. No, you
No,
don't.
you don't. No.
That being said, there's also intersections where you don't have any sign at all. And from what I know, or from what I heard, simply if there's no sign, you can just go because the other person has a stop sign. That would never be the case in Europe.
Oh, because
You
there's
always
rules.
need to have a sign to indicate you're on the main road, therefore you can go. Because if there is no sign, you have to give right of the way to the person from the right. So if there's an intersection in the middle of nowhere, it's not going to have any signs. You simply have to look to your right, and if there's a person coming, he has
right away.
the way.
Yeah.
I do have a weird story with a stop sign. It wasn't a sign on the road, but it was a stop sign on the school bus. And I knew that you can't pass a school bus or
course.
you can't go around it.
No, you can't.
But I was driving and the school bus was coming towards me and it stopped and it pulled out the little stop sign. And I just didn't know if I should or shouldn't stop. So I stopped. And then I saw one kid jumped out and he kind of walked to his house. So I slowly crawled. Oh boy, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
This one mother just started yelling at me like crazy, like, you want to kill my kid? I'm like, no, I was going like literally
No, but you
inch an
can't.
hour speed. So I didn't
Yeah.
know, so I apologize.
Yeah,
Since
it's for
then,
safety.
I fear school buses. Crazy, man. I see a school bus, I just stop.
Yeah, you have to stop.
Now this is a mirror. Most cars are equipped with those.
Yes,
but
you
I
would
have a
think.
feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they're very different in US. And when I say
How?
different, I mean worse.
What?
Because our mirrors have a little curve at the end, so you can see more around your car.
A curve?
In US, they usually don't have that, and you sort of see like a narrow path. So the
What?
moment when a car is next to you and it's in the dead angle where you can't see it, it's much larger in US with their mirrors, unlike our mirrors
What?
that see more. This is a car I
Never
drive
pay
here
attention to
in
this.
Europe. I rarely drive it, to be honest,
Because you
but it
can't.
is a big, big car from our perspective.
That's super
If
small.
you take it from the perspective
What?
in US,
Tiny.
oh, it's that small little station wagon.
Yeah.
No, it's big. When I go to US, I usually drive either a Suburban or a Chevy Tahoe, and those
Oh,
cars
are
are
huge. Yeah,
massive.
they're very big.
Now, I think that's a negative. I think it's crazy to drive giant SUVs and cars around
the city?
when you
It's
don't
weird.
really use up the space of the car. And as you can imagine, people in Europe usually drive smaller cars.
can't
We have
physically
bigger
drive a larger
cities,
car.
more densely populated. Therefore, you don't want to take up the space of a city with a big ass car that most of the time we don't really use. Because we have great public transport system that we're going to talk about in the upcoming future episodes if
What a
you're
flex.
curious about that. But just car sizes is something that when we from Europe first go to US, we're just like, what? Crazy.
Which means the opposite. That car is so
Once you're
small.
in US, you kind of get used to it that everybody drives an F-150 truck, which is the most sold car in US. But just
makes
yesterday, me and Hansa were walking on the street and we saw F-150 truck parked, by the way, on a sidewalk. And when you see it compared
Prague?
to cars that we drive, it's just crazy. You just don't understand
What
it.
is
And the
that?
guy who parked there, he wasn't hauling like a tree or a house or a boat. He was just like, oh, hey, let me get a cup of coffee here. I'll just park my truck here on the sidewalk.
Oh my god.
And he's a Czech schmuck. He's like, look at me driving a big American car.
He's an American.
Oh, poor guy. Whenever there's a car-related topic, people get offended. Please don't. This was mostly my perspective and my friend's perspective on the driving in Europe and US. It differs state by state, so I cannot talk
Yeah,
for
of
the
course.
entire Europe, and I can't talk for the
Yes.
entire United States. The laws differ here, and so on. So I'll be more than happy if you're from the States or if you're from Europe, if you can write your opinion on that. And I also hope somebody will do like a reaction to what we're saying from the other side of the pond. This was not our first video where we talk about differences between US and Europe. We did a previous one where I was sitting in a pub and I was talking about differences in terms of food ordering, beer, coffee, so you can check it out. We will link it above and also maybe below. And I'll see you next week here in our beautiful city of Prague, where we do not use cars. We use the public transport, which should be the next topic. I mean, look what we do to cars. We turn them into horse carriages.
I do not understand what
But on the future episode, we're going to talk about public transportation, because yes, in US, not only they drive cars, but they also do have public transport system.
So I've been told.
Frequently used.
No.
So I'm going to Florida to
Not
get
really.
this car inspected, and I'll see you next week, next Sunday, here on our channel, The Honest Guide. Honza and Yannick, ahoy.
I do not understand what's
I'm
up
going
with
to teach
this.
you a Czech word at the end, and it's something you don't see quite that much as you see it in Europe, and that is kombík. And kombík is a station wagon. This is my kombík. So the car is kombi, but the slang would be kombík.
I actually have heard that.
Station wagon.
Refer to other cars. I think I can't remember what language it was. Okay, this I think it's really funny because oh my god, nothing offends people more than when you start talking about cars and how people drive. I think people get really offended and very, I don't know, it's quite close to the heart. I think I don't know why. It's really an emotional topic apparently. I think because when you talk about, obviously if you go and do this whole, oh, people here drive in this particular way, people get really offended if you say something kind of bad. But again, it's just obviously not everyone. When you say, oh, they're bad drivers, obviously it's not, oh, literally everyone in the city is a bad driver. They're just speaking generally. So I don't think that you're supposed to be offended. And I don't think it was that offensive in the video itself. But but my main thing that I think is just wild to me, it's how the car sizes are just one of the weirdest things about this. At least to me personally, I know that in Europe they just drive cars that are so incredibly small that I cannot understand how people fit in those cars, because they're just very, very tiny. They're super tiny. And now that there's more, we have more electrical cars, they're more popular. And when you're talking about an electrical car, I imagine something, a Tesla, a sedan. It's sort of a sedan-like car. It has 4 doors. It's kind of normal sized. But those electrical cars that they have, I don't know if it's all throughout Europe, but I know I've only seen them. Well, yeah, mostly. No one owns those kind of cars in the US, or if they do, it's sort of a very small percentage of people. But in Europe, I can't even say what country, but I know I've seen them there. They're just cars that are toy cars. It's just so incredibly tiny. I swear I've seen cars made for kids, the ones that they make, those cars that are not really, technically they're not cars, but they're just electrical cars that they're done, kids ride around those cars. It's a car, and it's, a big car, it's made for kids. They look like this, and it's crazy. It's, oh my god, I can't believe, it's a car that you can drive in the highway, you can drive on the freeway, on the streets. It's crazy, because even then it's just, again, and I can understand logically why you can't have those huge cars in Europe, because again the roads are narrower. You don't have that much space because everything's sort of crowded and everything's cramped, because they simply physically there's no space. There's no space in the streets for parking. There's no place for, all the buildings are just very close together. There's much less space to roam. And I get it, but it's still very odd to see a car that seems fit for kids, and oh no, it's a normal car for adults and for you to live your life. It's crazy. And I don't understand how people fit in there. I would love to get in one of those cars, because from my perspective, I don't really understand how humans just sort of, they can get in those cars. Especially thinking, if someone's really tall, I'm thinking, 6 feet and probably and beyond. I don't understand how they're fitting those cars. You get it, and sort of your head is hitting the roof, and you can't, your legs. I have to be like this in order to reach the pedals, because I can't. And I don't know. It's made, obviously I know they make it work. Apparently it's got it's not as I don't know, as strange, or that not that much of a problem as I am imagining. But I would love to, me personally, I want to get in one of those cars, just because I would like to see is it super cramped? Because I am imagining it's super cramped, and I'm not even that tall. But I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't even know if I would fit in those cars, which obviously I would because it's not made for humans. But it's just the perspective from an outsider, and even from someone that has never actually entered one of those cars. It's just so strange to me. And the weirdest thing about this video to me was because I had no idea that apparently as something as big as an SUV they had a truck, an F is a F-150 I think, or E30, I can't, the truck that you see everywhere. I didn't know that they have those kind of cars in Europe, because I think I've seen some smaller SUVs, but they're not the comparable to the pickup trucks that you get in the US, or the Tahoe, which is a massive car. It's so incredibly big. And they're all the cars, all the giant sort of SUVs that he mentioned. I think those are the Jeeps, the Rangers, the whatever, I don't know the models, but there's just a lot of trucks over there. And I think it makes sense if you go, because you're holding something. I think it just makes sense if you drive in if you're driving in a more rural place, or I think I just associate this with people from the South. I think it's just a cliche. I'm guilty of this. You're not gonna get one of those, one of these cars in Manhattan or something. But it does happen. It's not as commonplace. But I don't really understand what's the point of driving this kind of thing in the city, like he mentioned. And it's even wild to me to even as one of those huge trucks, to see it in a city. I think it's just weird, because I have the same opinion. What on earth are you using that for? You don't need this. You want a smaller car because it's not practical in the city, the parking. Even though again, it's just not practical. It's kind of weird to me. But even, if I compare that to Europe, which again, it was Prague, which I didn't know, is it imported? I don't know. How are you able to fit this car into such a small place? I don't think you can find parking anywhere. Imagine sort of parallel parking in this huge thing. I can't. I literally can't. I would leave. I would not use my car because I can't. I'm scared of going places. I seriously, I cannot park. That's what I would be if I were in Prague or in Europe with this massive car. I couldn't handle this. But I think it's really funny. I think the funniest part about this is the stop sign, because I really do think that's one of the main differences between European roads and stop signs in general. Because I think it's not something that you realize until someone points it out. As why do you have so many stop signs? I don't know. To me, it's normal. You have to stop, but it's obviously. It's a stop, but not really. I mean, you're not literally. I think when you start, and that's why I go, everyone's going to be, no, of course I'm stopping. I'm full stopping. You're not. I mean, when you're first starting driving, you start driving, and you're going to, you want to pass your drivers, so you want to get your driver's license. And probably, I think, early on in your first, few months when you're first driving, yeah, of course you're going to be, it's a stop sign. But I think as you get more used to it, and you see how things actually work in real life, as in with driving in general, you kind of tend to not pay less attention, but you just get more comfortable. And a stop sign doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make a full stop. It's just more about be cautious down the road, see if there's any cars, if there's any pedestrians, if there's something. And then you crawl, I'm slowing down, okay, I'm going, good, I can pass. But I didn't realize that in Europe until someone like him points it out. No, they don't really have stop signs. But I actually think it's kind of better. Maybe I don't know if it's better. But it is, for them, obviously it works. But I think, yes, you don't have to, if you only see a stop sign, because it's not commonplace, like I just mentioned, in the US, they're just constant, and okay, you gotta do it. But in Europe, if you never see a stop sign, only in very specific roads and very specific intersections or very specific places, then because it's sort of an alarming thing. I have to make a full stop. Of course, you're going to make a full stop. So this is a little bit of boy who cried wolf situation. Obviously not applying, the metaphor is kind of big. But I think it's a little bit of this, of, if you're constantly seeing them, you're not that alert. How dangerous can it be? They're everywhere. But if you don't see them constantly, then it's you're seeing them for, once every, in this particular road, it's going to be something really important. It's going to be something very dangerous for this stop sign to be here. So I have to pay attention, and I literally have to stop. So I think maybe, I think for alertness sake, I think that's probably it's a little bit better. But it's funny, the whole thing about the bus stop, because I know that, if you have a school bus, and there's a stop sign, of course you have to stop, because I think with school buses, I think it's just a different situation, because kids are constantly, obviously you don't know, you can't see if they're going down, so of course you have to make a full stop. I don't know if the woman, I don't know if she overreacted, well, a little bit, but she didn't do it on purpose. But I agree, it's kind of crazy of you have to make a full stop. It's a school bus, kids are going in and out all the time, you have to make a full stop. And as for the others, I think that was a weird one that actually I haven't noticed this, but I would love that. Now I know. Now I'm conscious of this, and I want to know. It's the color signs of the brakes and the turn signals. I never thought of this before, but it makes sense. If someone doesn't have a one brake light, you're getting them confused. You don't know they're braking. But I think that also happens in the U.S. because people are braking more because all cars have an automatic transmission. They don't have a manual transmission, so as a result, you have to brake more because I don't have a manual transmission. But in Europe, I think, and I don't quote me on this. That's just I think. I think, I'm pretty sure, but I don't know. I do not know 100%. I think people when you have a manual transmission, you just brake a little bit less, because I think you have to, you can put it in neutral, you can slow your car down with, you downshift all the time. So you only brake at very specific times, and I think you just use your brakes less. So I think that's probably less of a problem in Europe, because people would, usually no one's braking, or unless, I don't know, in one circumstance that you would have to put your brakes on in a manual transmission car. But of course in the US you're constantly braking, so I can see where the confusion stems from, but I had never thought of this. But the other thing that I think was, now I want to know, is the mirrors. Apparently they're in the US. How was it in Europe? The mirrors are bigger or something. I don't know. They have a more of a curve. So if they have more of a curve, obviously you're going to see your field of vision is going to be a little bit bigger, which sure is going to be wider. I mean, you're telling me, I guess, but I have never thought of this. I've never paid attention to this, and now I want to know, because I would have thought, isn't this standard? I think all cars are created the same. Obviously no, not apparently. I don't know enough about cars, but I thought, obviously I know not all cars are the same, obviously, but I just think there are some things that are standard, as in, the rear view mirrors, the mirrors themselves. I think that's a standard thing. I didn't know that they have different sort of regulations or difference, the size changes. I think, I know that rear view mirrors actually do change depending on the model of your car. And of course, now I'm thinking about this, maybe it makes sense, because obviously you have a small car, then it's gonna be, your rear view mirrors are gonna be different from someone that has, one of those pickup trucks. But how big could they be? Well, no, actually they can't be. These cars are bigger just because the portion of the car is bigger. So of course your mirror needs to be bigger, because you can't put a smaller rear view mirror. Otherwise, you can't see. So the mirror only reaches up to my door. No, I have to see. Obviously, I have to see some things. So maybe that's why, I don't know. Now I'm so curious about this that now I want to see how it is in Europe, to see if you're actually, you have a bigger field of vision. Although I think in this day and age, they because of technology, you have other things, and not necessarily I rely on mirrors, but there are some cars that have, all the cameras and stuff, and not just for parking, but I find it very distracting. But I know there's cars that have the video thing, and they have the camera, and as you're driving, you can literally see, they have a camera outside of the car, and you can see what's happening outside of your car. You see your car because there's a camera. I find it very distracting, but I know that it exists. So maybe it's less of a concern these days, because again, if you want to see, you can just see it on the mirror camera, or I don't know what it's called, but I don't know, the outside camera, and you literally see your whole car. So yeah, I see my whole car, and I'm seeing myself, driving when I'm driving. I don't know, it's just very weird to me, the concept of, I think it's very confusing when you see the car and you're driving the car and you're seeing a camera that's you driving the car. Obviously you can't see yourself, but you're seeing the car sort of driving. I think it's just weird, whatever. But again, maybe it's less of a concern, because now, with technology, I think maybe that's less of a thing. And of course, I think the signs themselves, I never thought of this before, but yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. As in the US, everything has words, everything has letters, everything's going to be very, I think on one hand, I like it because it's very clear, it's very explicit, and you don't have to guess. what does that sign mean? Which I think, there are certain things that you should know because, again, supposedly you passed you have your driver's license. So there are some standard things and your basic things that you should know. But I think it's easy to sort of forget about them, again, as you go around life because you pass your driver's test when you were, 18, 16, 17, when you're a teen. And obviously as you grow up, you kind of tend to forget some things. But because it's more practical, it's more of a practical kind of thing. And if you're driving in very specific places, if you're living in one particular city or one particular state, there are some things that I don't see those signs often just because I don't drive there often or I haven't driven there in years or whatever. So I think it makes sense to me, and I like better the explicitness of, no parking between 8 a.m. and 12 or whatever it is in second part parking zones. But this could apply to so many things. But I hadn't noticed of the difference. Yes, of course, in Europe, it's just symbols everywhere. Everything's a symbol. I think rarely you see words written on the signs. And I don't know if I like that. I get the logic. He's so true. I think it speaks a lot about the interconnectedness of Europe, in which everyone's driving around. You don't need to use an airplane or a train to go to a different country. You could just sort of go and back in the same day, which I think is wild, but one of the cool things about Europe. But yeah, that's the thing. Of course, if you're driving 3 hours and you're finding yourself in a different country that speaks another language, I'm not going to put it in 10,000 languages, whatever, how many languages they speak in Europe. No, of course not. So it just makes sense to sort of standardize the whole thing. And it's just a symbol. And of course, I think people have, I don't know, I would say maybe if people have trouble reading, some people with some sort of, a disability or something, maybe it makes more sense to actually, of course, have just a symbol and people understand what this means. So I think that's also, about practicality, but yeah, I never thought of this. I think I like the explicitness just because I like, everything's very clear. But I get you can't do that in Europe because no, there's, yeah, sure, everything's gonna be in 10 different languages. No, absolutely not. But I think it makes it confusing if you're an outsider, because you're sort of, what on earth is that? What does that sign mean? Some things are explicit as in, you go by logic alone. But there are others where it's just sort of, and what does that mean? I'm sorry, what? You have to Google what on earth is this? But if you're driving, obviously you can't Google at the same time. So it's it's a whole different thing. But yeah, I love this video. And again, there's no perfect sort of driving or, it's better in the US or it's better in Europe. I think they all have good things and they all have bad things. So it's sort of, they should have invent a country or a territory in which driving is perfect. And that was it for today. And I'll see you next time. Bye.